Hi, it's really, really comfortable to be the last one to talk. I feel so chilled. Okay, hi, I'm Kathryn. And I'm here to talk. I can't remember the name of what I told the Dharma Parlor 3 months ago, whatever it was. Something liberation, something hands, something sensory, engagement with the natural world. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Some of you might know me from, some of you do know me from the Natural Link project. I was here last year and this year, and I have a little gazebo, which is not doing well in this weather, in the land and social change area. And a large part of my current practice, which is what I'll be talking about today, is about making colour from the natural world through using plants, earth, and metals. Just like a quick show of hands, if anyone's dabbled with a little bit of colour alchemy, whether that's natural dyeing or like making paints, or yeah, great. Okay, so my comrades are in, so we know what we're doing. Cool, sweet. I kind of wanted to start by saying that walking, writing and collecting things has been part of my practice since before I really knew what a practice was, or way before I knew what a practice was, since I was a kid, so I was a young person, and it's just always helped me to navigate a really wild world, being a sensitive human, being a newly diagnosed neurodivergent human. It's now like, oh wow, so many things are making sense, and I needed to get out and walk and to connect with the elements, connect with the natural world, just to calm down. So sitting still up here in front of you and my body's going, I want to be out walking, I want to be out doing things. So I've got some of my my kit with me. It's kind of my maybe they're slightly kind of safety. So I've got a pestle and mortar and some rocks with me. So if it all gets too much, I'm going to start banging rocks, and then and that'll keep me chilled. I've been reflecting a lot on this recently, about how there was an innate wisdom in my young self to be attracted to things that were going to be able to help me cope with a world being very, very busy, very overstimulating, and a home space that was really challenging, navigating addicted family member, and just sort of like not really understanding, trying to make sense as all kids do, as we all do as children, like what's going on, how do we do this? We might not have the language to do that. So I'd go out and I'd walk and I'd get really obsessed with collecting sea glass. So I'm sure many of us kind of do when we're out, like, oh goodness, then it can, the pockets get full, things get a little, jars get full. And that was a real way of, when the mind was really busy, when there was all of this sort of thinking going on, of connecting in with what I'd noticed. So the kind of the elements of practice that I'm bringing in here, the kind of 4 key elements of practice that weave and correspond with how I make colour from the natural world and my inner world. So I refer a lot in my practice to, inner and outer landscapes. That's the way I like to view it. It's like this constant movement between the outer landscape, the inner landscape, and there's no division, eh? We're constantly in that shift. So today, with the wild winds and the rain, it's really in the bones. I'm really kind of feeling that, because I'm so spiritual. So there really is that sense of it being this constant movement between them both. So moving on from kind of sea glass and beach plastic, would collect beach plastic. I remember in the days after my dad passed away, I was 26, and he passed away in that kind of strange time around Christmas and New Year. And I was then down the beach, and I was going for a run, blasting the cobwebs away. And I started noticing these bits of beach plastic. I was like, okay, I'm going to start collecting them. And they're just little, the kind of small things that you find. Put them in my pocket. Got home, put them on the table, and noticed that there was this colour wheel forming. I was like, oh my goodness, like how many colours and how much plastic? Like, oof, how much? It was quite new to me to be thinking about the world in a way of the way that we're understanding it so much more now. to be kind of full of this unnatural things that we find. But there was also a beauty in that. In that moment, there was this kind of colour wheel forming. There was connection. So the first kind of element of my practice is noticing. It's curiosity and patience. And noticing, like, how hard is it sometimes just to notice stuff, to what's going on outside or in the body. So with the inner landscape practice of, okay, I'm noticing, I'm getting curious, and to be nurturing patience. Patience is a big thing when you're making colour from the landscape. I can't force the elderberries to be ripe right now. I certainly can't force the blossom to pop back on the tree if I want to be working with that. So one of the ways that I like to kind of keep a check on that, my Google Maps. So I put little pins in the Google Maps when I find a really interesting plant I want to work with, particularly mahonia berries. They're really exciting if you're not familiar with them. Aldi's car parks are really good for them. And yeah, so noticing and patience, and they're a way of grounding. So it's this constant grounding. So it felt a bit uncomfortable to think, I'm going to say the trauma word in a Dharma talk, and I don't know if that's okay. But navigating what it is to have grown up in a body that's kind of navigated quite a lot of stuff in the nervous system, and a lot of stuff in the mind, and the way that mental health can be impacted, the way that the physical health can be impacted, and how what I'm really embracing now is there's no linear, there's no, oh, now I'm unwell and I'm going to move towards wellness and then I get to be a Buddhist. It's like that it's all just this whole kind of access, you know, the crack is where the light gets in, the darkness and the light. So there's this, I'm learning to be more at peace with the conditions that I found myself, experiencing. And through the practice of navigating, of encountering the natural world in this way, it's really helped me walk alongside myself in such a deep way that I'm now able to hold that in, be with that in others, which feels like such a beautiful connecting gift. Didn't think I was going to say all of this. Looking forward to the vulnerability hangover afterwards. So the second part of this is about connection, and one thing I sort of talk about a lot within my creative practice when people come and we do workshops is saying yes to the mess. It's like, great, okay, so we're going to play with berries, we're going to play with bark, we're going to play with mud, we're going to play with rocks, and we're really going to get stuck in. So physically we're getting stuck in, and also don't we have to do that when we're sitting internally with our stuff? It's like, okay, I'm going to be a really good Buddhist today, and I'm just so at peace. And as Zach said, it's like, and all that stuff, we're like, ooh, okay, I'm going to be with that. God, I really am a dickhead, aren't I? Okay, right. Okay, and how we bring kindness and compassion to this. So one of the two, Paramananda, that some of you might know, who's an order member who I've had the privilege of being on retreat with a number of times in the field and also online. He, a lot of his work that I've really connected with is about alchemy. The alchemizing of experience through sitting with it, and the body. So his work around the intimacy with the body as vessel, and the images that he creates with sitting there and just being able to recite poetry. The images that come through in poetry, and has already been discussed, these images that when we can't say the thing, but we're creating this image of something that we know intimately. So yeah, connection when you're making things, it involves pestle and mortars, it involves this intimacy, the sensory intimacy with the natural world. It stinks often making things, from the bubbling things and having things bubbling away. And then the very nature of impermanence. So I've got a couple of pieces of work down here, is that when I'm working with living colour, the same way when I'm in my inner landscape and I'm navigating, sitting with whatever I find there, it changes, it mutes, it shifts. So these are made from avocado skins and stones. Love compost killer. It's one of the first things I found with the pink. So they come from simmering down the pinks and then adding the iron rust on the bottom and then the copper pipe on the top. So when I'm exploring that, the alchemical connection within this work on the page, it's about adding the metal. And you shift the colour with botanical colours, by changing the pH balance. So rather than adding red and white to make pink, and whatever it does on the page is a moment in time. So I can never replicate the same thing twice. So I think there's another one back there which is essentially the same thing, but there's these differences. So at the moment, that's my current, my current focus is that. So people will come and they'll say, "Oh, I really like your work," but what I'm aware of is I'm not really doing the work. I'm a conduit. I'm the riverbanks for it, but it's doing itself. This is what happens when you create color from avocado, when you add some iron and when you add some copper, and it's elemental. It's being itself. It's connecting. It's having a relationship with it's having a relationship with the different elements on the page, and it amazes me, and it brings me delight, and it brings me joy, and I see other people get quite hypnotized when they're looking at things, and they come and they hang out in the studio, and when they make their own work. So heartily welcome you all to come to a workshop and play with things and be like an 8-year-old in a den, because that's kind of how it feels to really embrace that delight and joy. Thank you, Sangadara. Yeah, and so the sort of cycle then of being the alchemy and the mystery that come through in this practice isn't always pleasant. So it's definitely not a Laura Ashley catalogue of like full with, glorious florals. We get into the depth and into the darkness of this stuff. So, and we know this when we're here, and this is my 9th year with Buddhafield. I can't quite believe that it's such a big number, but when we're with the holding of the delight and the joy and the being in the natural world, and we're also with the edges of that, the pain with that, the recognition that there's grief there, that we're aware of the degradation that humans are causing on the planet, socially navigating deep challenges, as well as within the ecological system, and the way that they interlink in ways that I don't feel like I have the words to even go into. But there's something about being with the isness that my practice this year in particular has really been pointing towards. After having I had a moment, guys, when I was driving, because that's where all of your profound moments come. And it was a moment after spending some deep time in the Buddhist with the Buddhafield team, and I've been chatting to various order members and various friends in the Sangha since, and it was something, the conditions arose where things fell away, and I had a moment of insight, and it struck me. I was driving, and it was a grey, bit similar to this kind of day, and there was just such a sense in that moment of, I don't get to win at this, and this is what it is. And it was, whoa, okay. And since then, it's been coming into it's a felt sense. It wasn't a sort of cerebral understanding. And I'm now grappling, like I'm integrating that experience and sitting with, okay, the not shying away from the hard stuff, and they're not clawing onto they're not the craving and aversion. So being kind of in the middle of this, walking the middle way, and in amongst that, more and more, I am the deep recognition that this body as a vessel, that the land that I embody, and the people that I'm with, just vital to listen, really deeply vital to listen to what's going on. And the importance of asking the question, like, oh, what do I need right now? Like, what does my body need right now? Like, how can I connect in that? How can I not be the silo over here, just sort of trying to do everything alone? And how can I come in and out of connection, and to support those around me and support myself in that? And knowing that this is a moment in time where you're getting this particular flavor of these kind of points that I'm sharing, and knowing that another day in time, maybe when I wasn't quite so highly strung from 4 days in the field, then you'd be getting something else, or a one-to-one, maybe we'd get in a bit juicier. So yeah, I'm really grateful for this, for the moment to drop into this. Yeah, and I was really struck when you said, Zach, about the power of art, the power of working with the image, power of working with the non-verbal as well. And having spent time studying the history of art and time in galleries, not quite knowing why I was moved to tears by artwork, but always kind of, oh goodness, and to allow the heart to experience that. Yeah. I think, yeah. Insert really profound Sangharakshita quote here. And now I'm finished. Yeah. Thank you.